Welcome to Haven Light Artist Spotlight. I'm Scott Usher. I'm the creative director for Haven Light, and I'm here with artist Dan Wilson. Dan, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Studio audience is incredibly happy to have you here today. Excellent. I'm so glad you wore your painting uniform today.
Yeah, it is the uniform. I got about 20 of these, and the paint just gets thick enough until I go to the DI and get some new ones. Now, this is like my most used tool. As I'm blending edges, I'm constantly looking at what I'm doing and just stripping the brush full of paint. So,
And you paint with oils.
yeah.
So this is not just kind of a watercolor mess. This is a solid,
This is a solid mess right here. It's not going anywhere.
top notch.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about creativity and really the act of creation. What an artist can do in taking literally a blank canvas and putting onto it something as beautiful and wondrous as a piece of art like we have right behind us here.
Yeah. How can you take a blank canvas and make a beautiful creation out of it? I think a lot of people will look at me and say, well, he's a Christian artist and that's what he's known for. He does pictures of Jesus. But I think that all things denote that there is a God. And if you paint it in such a way that it speaks of reality and creation, and I think all things will turn the viewer back to the original creator. And it doesn't matter if it's a beautiful landscape with all of God's creations in there, with a beautiful light source, and or it could be a wildlife or clothed figurative
All creatures,
or portrait.
great and small.
Yeah, that's right.
Today's episode is brought to you by Haven Light, the premier religious art dealer with curated collections to help you find your Jesus and invite more light into your home. If you've been looking for a piece of religious art, shop our curated collections at the link in the description below and use code PODCAST20 for 20% off of your order. Let's get back to today's episode.
But it's true. I've had some really cool spiritual experiences painting still life or painting a moose and just thinking about the variety on earth and all of God's creations. It's pretty incredible. And that's why I love painting, is because it really doesn't matter what you're painting. The subject matter doesn't really matter as long as you are painting it in the best way that you can and being as creative as you can. It's a spiritual process for sure.
I mean, it's definitely magic. How often do people come up to you and just say, oh my gosh, I don't have a creative bone in my body. How can you possibly do that?
I hear that a lot because I teach so many workshops. I get a lot of people that are like, hey, just so you know, I'm not really creative. I'm not that artistic. But you can teach them the disciplines of art, the disciplines of seeing shapes in an abstract way, seeing angles, distances, values, temperatures, colors. And once you open their eyes up to see correctly, everyone's creative. Everyone has something to offer art. And so once they have the disciplines down, they fill the rest of it with their own creativity. And I've seen a lot of artists come to my studio and they felt like they were no good, and they have just stuck with it. And a lot of them are now doing great and are in big shows and selling a lot of their work. And they came first thinking, oh, I'm not that good at art, but I just have an interest in it. I would like to get better. And now they're full-time, amazing artists.
Yeah. I think it was Stephen King that said, write 7 hours a day, 7 days a week. And eventually you're going to become a decent writer.
Yeah, 100%.
There's still that extra little bit of something that's a blessing, that's magic, 15% of something that's in there that just kind of says, after all the structure, after all the rules, everything like that, there's still this moment of inspiration. There's still this thing of divine inspiration that occurs.
Yeah. I think I've had some experiences when I'm just painting by myself, and I can only go so far. But I've had a lot of experiences, and I try to prepare myself spiritually before I paint, that I can have guidance and I can do something. I can inspire and paint something that is above myself, above my abilities and skills. I think your spiritual preparation before you actually get to the physical. And anything that we do is some of the most important things that we do. And for that, we have scriptures, we have prayer, and just to be intentional with what you are doing. And the one thing I've noticed, and I've noticed this with a lot of my students, is the more intentional and specific they are with asking Heavenly Father for blessings, the more specific they are blessed. And I've seen that in my own life. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I'm not praying to see exact shapes, angles, distances, values, colors. I pray for those specific things, and then I feel those extra blessings as I'm painting above what I'm able to paint.
You told a story one time about the piece that you did for the Washington Temple and trouble you were having getting the figures to sit correctly in the space.
Yeah.
And how, after doing a bunch of this prayer, you actually had an answer come to you one day that I didn't even know I know how to do that.
Yeah. So these angels, there's hundreds of angels. I've never even counted how many angels, because they just keep on going back and back into the clouds in this painting, the second coming scene. And I had a deadline for the DC Temple, and the church wanted to do a big PR move with this. And anyway, it was very, very stressful. And it's one thing to nail one angel perfectly, but the angel next to them, that gets a little bit more complicated, because you have to match the exact amount of contrast and temperatures, because they share the same environment. They share the same light source. Now you add 10 angels surrounding that one angel, and now you start going back in atmospheric perspective, and they need to start losing just a little bit of contrast as they go back in space, and add 20, 30, 100, 500 angels to that equation, and it gets extremely complicated. So I was painting, and I was nailing each individual angel, but they were not meshing together. They didn't look like they were in the same space. Some were advancing, some were going back in space too much. And Christ is supposed to be, he is the focal point in that piece, not the angels. But there's so much busyness going on with all these angels, not, going back and forward too much, that it became the focal point, and I was super stressed out, and I didn't know exactly how to. I've never had an issue like this before. So I was praying, I was fasting, I received a Father's blessing, I was in the temple a lot, and I was like, Heavenly Father, I obviously don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I'm trying to do something that I've never done before. I need help. And you would have thought that he would have helped me on, the second, third, fourth angel. Oh no, I did all the way around Christ until I was probably 80% done with all the angels. And it was stressful, and I just knew if I keep on going, if I keep on pressing forward in faith, he's going to take care of me, because it's happened before in my career where he has taken care of me. And it might not be in my timing, but he wants me to stretch myself, humble myself, do the best that I can. And then one morning at 4 a.m., I pop out of bed, and I'm not an early riser like that, but I just popped up out of bed, and in my mind's eye, I could see myself with a specific synthetic flat brush, with the correct oil to use, and with a specific type of very old paint called lead white that the old masters used to use, and it's very transparent. And I saw myself in my mind's eye glazing down the angels that needed to push back in space, and giving several glazes to some angels and just one glaze to other angels, and letting other angels just be where they're at, because they're already in the right spot. And it was really, really cool, because it doesn't matter how old we are. Sometimes we struggle with our prayers, and sometimes we need to know Heavenly Father's there. He's in the details of our lives. And if we really care about something, it means that he cares about it too. And he might not come and rescue us right the second that we want it, but he's going to let us stretch and grow and become better, and then he will answer those prayers. And I knew this is a blessing from Heavenly Father. This is my answer. And that changed that whole piece. Once I started doing those glazings, all of the angels came back to exactly where they needed to be in atmosphere. Christ became the focal point, and the rest was history. The rest of the painting was very easy. So it was an amazing just testimony builder that God is real, prayer is real. He's our Father. He's there to take care of us. And the more specific we are with him, the more specific he will be with us.
That's awesome. I love that story. It's one of my COVID experiences is watching that piece come together.
Yeah.
And I'll just say that I love talking about that.
People need to see what real creation with actual paint looks like. There are so many fakes in the world. Mm-hmm. There's a fake for everything out there. And AI art, you got a million keyboard warriors putting in prompts, and AI is creating this art, but it's very flat, and it's not that creative. I think AI is going to boost the amount of appreciation there is for traditional art and traditional artists. I will start over on a smaller piece, and I will go through my entire process from just a blank canvas to see if I can get done with an entire portrait of Christ in 1 hour. And so that will be really cool to see. If you're way into art or seeing someone create something from nothing, that would be very fun to see an hour of speed painting when I'm talking about every single step of the way.
Yeah. I've been lucky enough to watch you paint in a lot of different places. I'm going to make sure that I'm there. I appreciate you coming in today. It's good to see you. Welcome to the studio for the first time.
Very cool.
Studio audience is happy to have you here as well.
There you go. Thanks, guys.